Hello, everyone. Trust that you are well. And today we have another tutorial for you. And this tutorial has to do with role permissions and feature access. Role permissions and feature access. This is really an exciting feature because what it does, it allows you to give different individuals in your church different roles, right? So they can see different things and they can do different things with the software. And you, as the owner, you, as the main admin, you are able to control all of that. There are two sections where role and permissions are managed, but I want to start with this first section. So this is known as the general section or the overall section, right? So everything here is pretty much set, and once it is set, it applies to everyone who has that particular role. So we have 4 different permission slots here, right? The first one is member, second one is leader, the third one is volunteer, the fourth one is finance. These are the 4 main permission slots. Essentially, everyone who is a member, they have access to all these things right here, right? They have access to giving, they have access to groups, they have access to attendance, they have access to volunteer tabs, they have access to discipleship, scripture, quiz, sermon surveys, journal, and of course their own profile. However, you can turn off any one of these that are highlightable. Of course, you can turn off the person's profile or you can turn off their giving. They can see that when they log into the dashboard. But any one of the other ones you could turn off, but pretty much I leave them all on unless I leave them all on unless there is something, why I would want to turn off that for that particular access group. But keep in mind that this is a general setting, so anything that is turned on here is turned on for everyone who has that role. Anything that is turned off here is turned off for everyone that has that role. So when you move from member to leader, notice leader has member features, so everything that's over here, plus assigned members. Do you remember when we were signing up someone? So let me just show you quickly. When you were adding someone, and right at this section here, you see leaders responsible for this member. So right here, assign leaders. So as if we had set up a role where we assign someone as a leader in the church, then they will show up as someone that you could assign to a member. And that's where you would assign the member to that particular leader. When you're adding their name or editing their name, that's where you would do it. So they have, of course, attendance, they have groups, and they have visitors. You could turn those off. And of course, they have their own giving. All of those are specific to the individual. So whatever role the individual has, they will see information that's specific to them. So no 2 member can see the same information. No 2 leader will see the same information. And of course, you have volunteer, right? A volunteer would have member features plus volunteer tools. And what are the volunteer tools? Volunteer tools would be like volunteer schedule, events, check-in, and so on and so forth. Okay? Those will be considered the volunteer tools. We will come to how you could also expand. If someone has the volunteer role, you could expand the feature set that they have access to. But this is just your general area. And then for finance, if someone just have the basic finance option, then they will have access to, of course, their own giving. They will have access to their own profile. And of course, they will have access to the church's financials, the reports, and analytics. So these are your role permissions and feature access, right? This is the general area. Anything you set here is applicable to anyone who has that particular role. Now, we want to come to users, and there's something I want to show you where users are concerned. So remember, we had created this person called Martin Luther. It was in a previous video. If you haven't watched that video before, it's simply in the video as that relates to how to add a member. Right, so we add Martin Luther, right? So one of the things we could do with Martin Luther, we could click edit. And when you click edit, look right here. It says customize this user's tab access. So essentially, you can turn on and turn off any aspect of Poimnion for this particular user. So if I do not want Martin Luther to see the dashboard, I can deny Martin Luther from seeing the dashboard, right? If I want him to see it, I just click grant. If I don't want Martin Luther to see attendance, you could deny or you could grant, or you could just leave it at the default. Remember, the defaults are set up under roles and permissions, right? But when it comes to nitty-gritty stuff, like any tab, so to speak, all the tabs are here, and any tab could be either turned off or turned on for a particular user, regardless of the role. So even though Martin Luther is a member, you could change the role here if you want, right? But even though he is a member, you can still give him access or give her access. If it's a female who you are working with, you could give that individual access to anything at all in Poimnion, or you could turn off any feature in Poimnion. So this is just a very powerful tool, down to the nitty-gritty as to what you can do with Poimnion. So to get here again, you go to users, and you will see all the users that are part of your system. I'll zoom this up a little bit. And then you click edit. And when you click edit, you could turn on or off any feature at all in Poimnion for that user. If you just want the user to have the standard set of permissions that come with that particular role, then of course under roles and permissions, yeah, we have these 4 set, and these are the basic ones that come with these particular roles and with these particular roles. So yeah, that's it for roles and permissions. Really powerful. Remember, you have 2 places. You have roles and permissions, and then you have under users, when you click edit, you could turn on or turn off any feature. All right, you could play around with it a little bit or look at it, but it is really a powerful tool for you and your church. All right, may God bless you, and catch you on the next one.